Help, help! There's been a murder! There's been a murder on the Zinderneuf. That's right. Today, I'm going to take a look at Murder on the Zinderneuf. This is a game that I wanted to take a look at because it's old and because it has a memorable name. Um, right now, my computer is pretending to be an Atari 1200 XL, which was part of the Atari 8-bit line of home computers. So not an Atari 2600, although that would have been roughly contemporaneous. 1983 is when this game came out, which was the same year as the big old video game crash that really hurt the game console market that was dominated at the time by the Atari 2600, in part because of the growing availability and popularity of home computers. So this is right on the cusp of the budding home computer gaming industry. And that's the other thing that makes this interesting, is it's one of Electronic Arts' first releases. Today it's EA, but back then it was Electronic Arts, and the whole thing was that it was a professional sort of boutique home computer game company, where with other companies it might turn out to just be a dude who made a game for fun and then released it, found a publisher and released it on a floppy disk or whatever. With Electronic Arts, they were rock stars, they were artisans, and it made sure it knew it, and it made sure the customer knew it by stuff like the manual, which is always a very important thing to take a look at with any game that you're just starting out to play. So that's why I wanted to show it here. I'm on page 2 for some reason, but this is the front. And like I said, this is part of the production that set Electronic Arts apart from the rest of the pack in 1983. And the manual is crucial to the game, not so much because it tells you the controls. It doesn't. It actually mentions a command summary card, but I can't find that. So I don't necessarily know what all the controls are, but luckily it's a joystick game, and a joystick game at this point in time meant an analog control stick and one button. So as far as I can tell, that's all you got, and I can do everything in the manual with it. So I don't know what would be on the command summary card other than, hey, move around and hit the button. But anyway, the plot of the game is you're on a dirigible and someone got murdered. You're going from London to New York, so luckily it is not one of those fascist dirigibles. It's just a regular type. And you're a detective. I'll summarize. You can read this at your own leisure, but the gist is I'm gonna be wandering around people's rooms looking for clues, eventually hopefully getting a motive clue by searching around in rooms even more. And if I bump into people, then it delays the clue finding, but I get to ask them questions. I get to decide how I do it. You'll see what I mean. Eventually accuse someone, find the murder. Cool. And then there's tips. There's period information over here about stuff that happened in the 30s if you don't know. And this is our map. I'll be referring to this a lot because it tells me where everyone's rooms are and what their characteristics are that might come up in the course of the detectivery. And so then this manual also has a bunch of flavor about the different detectives you can play. You can play all these different detectives. A lot of their names are obvious puns, but they're all sort of stock characters and different types of detectives, and that supposedly will inform how you do your detectiving. Then you have the suspects, and you might notice there's a lot of suspects. It's a pretty crowded dirigible. I think if you were a truly dedicated practitioner of the forensic arts, you would memorize the details and biographies and personalities of all these different characters, and then you would be able to feel like you were truly a part of the story and interacting with real human beings. Um, but I haven't done that, I must confess. So I will mostly just have a vague sense, if anything, about who these people are. And then at the back, again, Electronic Arts is pushing at this point in time that it was made by designers, by authors, and so it has this little biography of the people who made the game, which wasn't always guaranteed at the time. This is more than you really get even in modern times. Like you don't have an about the author page on Mass Effect or whatever. There's too many. You just get credits. But what I like about this is that you see people with experience in pen and paper RPGs, because there isn't that much time for people to have a ton of experience with actual games, or with video games is what I meant. You do get, this person made Crush, Crumble, and Chomp before, stuff like that. So there is, there's been an industry for a while, but yeah, it's young for sure. You also get this note about how they also like SF and fantasy, and they leaning towards libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism. So, there's that too. If anyone tells you that video games were ever non-political, then here's a game from 1983 that mentions its favorite politics right in the back of the manual. So that's the manual. What fun. I think it's time that we get a hands-on experience of the game itself. So let me switch us back over there. Here we go. And turn the audio back on so you can hear this lovely dirigible noise that I've been listening to the whole time I've been talking. And now press start for game. Like I said, it is a joystick game, so I'm going to press the joystick button on this, Xbox controller. So here we are. So here's those detectives from the manual, and I can pick any of these that I choose to desire. I've played a couple of rounds of Murder on the Zinderneuf. I have not been successful, but I think I played as Agatha Marbles and maybe Akil Merlot, and there is some difference. It's mostly in flavor. I'm going to go with Charity Flair because I think she has a jaunty walk that's quite fun. I don't know if her name is a pun on any famous detectives, but if so, the reference has gone over my head. Here's some more loading. I hope it's not too loud, and I hope that you enjoyed the loading from earlier on. I quite like this emulator, Altira, because it emulates these nice loading screens, and I enjoy that. They're very pleasant. And so now here we are. This is Murder on the Zinderneuf. This is the Zinderneuf. Veronica Marlowe is missing. Whitehall would appreciate my help. So I work for Whitehall, and I'm looking for the murderer of Veronica Marlowe, or at least she's missing, presumed murdered, I suppose. I'm going to take a look just for fun. I'm going to go see what the manual has to say about our victim, Veronica Marlowe. So if I look back over here, Veronica Marlowe is taken from the Soho slums by the first of several husbands, a booking agent who shaped her early career before being killed in the war. Veronica Marlowe found fame on the English stage, but fortune in Hollywood in the 1920s. Her long blonde hair and striking looks kept her in great demand for more than a decade, on screen and off, and she was one of several women rumored to be the various Woman in Black at Valentino's grave. Lacking a major role for the past 2 years, she guaranteed herself the part of Jane in a new Tarzan movie by marrying the proposed male lead, Olympian Buck Battle, who is next to her. So Buck Battle, the husband, already a suspect, and it sounds as though she's the sort of prototypical widow figure collecting murdered husbands, but this time it was her who was horribly murdered and or just quietly disappeared. So this is me. You can see what I mean about the jaunty walk. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I guess just trust me that the other detectives I played had a walk animation that was less jaunty than this one. So we start on the deck. I don't believe we have a room of our own. So the very first most important thing is to look at a good place to start. And also my time is ticking down. I'm going to anyway, I will fix that in a moment. I will make it so that it pauses when I click away. But the key thing is, here's the map of everyone's rooms. I don't believe you have a room on the Zinderneuf. Like, I'm not sure. Maybe it's this one. Maybe that's our room. No, that's part of Felicity Supercross's room. It's just a slightly different color. So I don't have a room on the Zinderneuf. Maybe I'm a stowaway. I don't know. Maybe it's a Murder on the Orient Express kind of situation where I took someone else's room for some reason. See, time is ticking down. I will fix that in a moment. In fact, let me fix that now. I won't switch the view, but I will do it for myself. Because I want as much time as possible to solve this murder. That's not quite true. I will probably... there. Now it's paused. Okay, so what I'm saying is that I want to find the murder victim's room, because obviously that's a good place to start. That was Veronica Marlowe. So right over here in the bottom left, and we start over here in the far left. So that means we just have to go to the left, and it's the first room. So quite close, very handy. So I will switch back, and I do apologize if at any point in time I fail to switch back, or my keyboard makes too much noise, or anything like that. Yes, so here we are, and now we will switch back here. Now we're unpaused. You see the time ticking down in the top right. That's what made that chiming noise. We're on the Zinderneuf, we're heading down. We found that this was her room. So this is the victim's room, and now I am searching the room for clues, which involves just sort of milling about. The manual mentions that you should imagine, you know, turning over the bed covers, looking in the shelves, and we found a clue. Oh, a diamond-encrusted wedding ring. Interesting. That is potentially, that already, I'm going to click away so it pauses again, just so I can talk. That already makes me think that perhaps it is indeed Buck Battle, since he was married to her. It could also just be her wedding ring. It could be someone else's wedding ring. But what it tells us is that we should... someone is involved who was married. Which maybe isn't that much information, because several of the suspects are married, including the victim herself. So again, it could just be her ring. But I've had... In the times I've played this game, once I just had a strand of brown hair, which led me to a strand of black hair. So this is a decent draw, I suppose, in terms of a first clue. So Buck Battle, very much my first suspect. He has the suite right next to her, which makes sense. They were married. So let us go look over there. Here and this. And now I am ready to walk over there. Oh, is it paused? No. I'm not sure what... Oh, I see. I had to press the button to... There. Okay, so I've accidentally, in my fumbling, I've accidentally run into Buck Battle, which is fine because I want to talk to him. So this is the kind of thing that happens, is that depending on which detective you picked, you get a different set of approaches that you can treat people with. So this is the kind of thing where if I knew exactly who it was, if I knew exactly what I was like, I could pick the appropriate one. I'm thinking that since he's a big buff movie star and I am a seductive, alluring spy, it seems like I would get the most information by either being helpless for him, assuming that he's, you know, sort of misogynist and condescending, or I could be seductive, assuming that he's horny and his wife is dead and maybe he killed her. I'm gonna go seductive, I guess. Ooh, Buck Battle, please tell me what you know. And I'm going to ask about Veronica, his wife, who is dead. She would have done anything for a king and country. Is it Veronica? Yeah, Veronica Marlowe. That's not, you know, he's already using the past tense. Okay, so she was quite patriotic. She returned just last month from an extended tour of Europe. Okay. Let's ask one more time. To all appearances, she and Margaret were the best of friends. Okay, I don't feel as though that was the most informative in the world. He mentioned Margaret. He mentioned she was patriotic. Didn't seem distraught, frankly. And he responded 3 times to my seductive inquiries. And that's how you know that you chose a good approach, because I got 3 answers to 3 questions when otherwise I would have gotten maybe one, or he might have been like, oh, buzz off. I'm not interested in talking to you. So anyway, I don't feel like I have too much information. I'm going to investigate his room now. So now I'm in his room. I want to avoid running into him again, because that would disrupt the clue searching that I'm doing right now. You can see me looking down under the table. Buck Battle has wandered over. See what I mean? A brown hair. That doesn't... I don't feel as though I have gotten much information from that. Let's look at the manual to see if Buck Battle has... he does not have brown hair, and Veronica doesn't have brown hair. So, okay, maybe it is perhaps interesting, but the problem is that Marie has brown hair, Margaret has brown hair, Vincent has brown hair, Hester Prynne has brown hair, Prim, sorry, and Philip has brown hair. So there's a lot of options. And we have, we know she was in Europe for a while, and we know that, but she's British, so that makes sense. If we find someone who hates Britain, maybe that will start to piece clues together. But I think if I can, I think I'm going to try questioning Buck some more. Oops, I forgot to switch over. I apologize. Aha! There. So I have to press to make that go away. That's what tripped me up before. So I believe that's still Buck. So I want to ask him some more. I'm going to be helpless this time, just for variety's sake. I'm going to ask one more time about Veronica. Okay, yeah, we get she was British. Okay, so he really knows she was British. Now I've noticed something, that this game does kind of pre-select some persons of interest for you, so I might start to know that Buck, Margaret, and Vincent, just by the fact that it lets me ask people about them, that they may be more important than, others. I guess I'll ask Buck about Buck. Yeah, okay, he doesn't want to talk about himself like that. Although maybe if I were seductive, I wonder. That seems like something that could happen, but I can't talk to him right now because I just talked to him. Who's this? I accidentally ran into him. It's Rod London. Now, he sounds British. I'll assume that he is a red-blooded, horny, heterosexual man. Because that's the kind of assumption you make in these sorts of games. And I'm going to ask about Buck. Okay, wow, yeah, okay. Exceedingly nationalistic. So is he American though? I want to know more about Battle, yeah. Okay, so that's all he knows about Battle. Let's go ask Battle again. I want to know about... So if the idea that it's trying to paint a picture for me that's starting to come about is that maybe... Because, I'm sorry, I'm going to check the manual off screen momentarily. I want to confirm... Yeah, so Buck Battle is American. So if the idea... so the picture that's starting to form for me is that perhaps Buck Battle is a Nazi, and an American Nazi, or just a fascist of, the nationalistic sort, and he killed his wife. So let's be seductive again, and let's be like, ooh, cool, I want to hear about you. Okay, that didn't work. It was a good thought. Let's ask more about Margaret, since you wanted to talk. Oh, okay. Geez, Margaret is a British spy. I believe I am too. So, it alarms me that, one of our fellow members would be so unraveled. So I think in that case, I want to keep asking people about this whole affair, but I also want to look into Margaret, since there was a brown hair, since she is a British spy, and I think I am too. That's what Whitehall is, right? Question mark. so let's go over here. So that's just one room over, so that's awfully convenient again. I must say, this is going much better than the other cases that I've dealt with as I was preparing this video game. I have to be honest with you folks. I handily was defeated by the Shrouds of Mystery involved with the Zinderneuf cases of which I was involved. I did not solve anything. I absolutely did not. It turned out that my first victim had been killed as part of a satanic ritual. So that was fun, but I had little to no inklings of that happening at all. Okay, a very long blonde hair. I believe I remember that Veronica was blonde. So that strikes me as interesting. I would assume that maybe one of these is Margaret. Oops, I didn't mean to. Oh well. I could ignore him and not talk to him, but I might as well. Ask. I'll just go with my usual seductive, and I'll ask about Veronica. Barlow is fickle. Oh, well, screw you too, dude. Yeah, okay. He doesn't know a lot. Acutely observant, photographic memory. So I feel like the game might be pressing me towards Margaret. Just for fun, I'll go with seductive. And hey, maybe it'll work. I wish it would work, but I suspect this is the kind of game where, you know, you're just supposed to assume everyone's heterosexual and stuff like that. I'm going to ask about Veronica, since they were friends. Yeah, you see, that didn't work at all, because she doesn't want to bang me, which is unfortunate, I suppose. But I still want to ask a question, so I'm going to ask someone else something, just for the sake of hopefully opening her up. So he didn't like that either. Question, I'll go with hard. And I'll say battle? So continental. I thought he was American, but maybe he's got European influences in him. I believe that's what British people mean when they say continental, is European stuff. Maybe America's continental too. It is a continent. I don't know who this is. I don't think this guy's involved, but we'll just ask around. She met Van Went in Paris on the Rue de la Morale. Okay, let's ask again. Yeah, I remember that. More fluent in German. Yeah, see, I feel like that battle guy is kind of a fucking Nazi, right? I apologize for the... No, you know, I don't apologize for the swear. I wasn't gonna swear, but fuck Nazis, really, though. Let's question this person. Let's just be warm, because I don't think she's involved. Let's say, ask about Veronica. Oh, to all appearances, once again. Oh, boy. Oof. Geez, it's really pushing this a lot. Oh, so I accidentally ran into someone else again. Let's just ask. Okay, so now the question is, what exactly do I want to go about all this? I feel like I have a lot of information, but an issue I have with this game is that it feels hard to connect that to specific actions. Like, it's hard to know, like, okay, do I have enough information? I definitely suspect battle, and I hope it's battle in the sense that I hope the game condemns the Nazi leanings he has, or that it's implying by having him also be a murderer. Okay, so she thinks that she was so British that she doesn't matter. Yeah. I should have ignored her. I think it's bad. That's what I think. So I'm going to try wandering around his room until I get a motive clue, and then maybe I'll have, I don't know, solved the game or something. The picture I've painted for myself is that his wife, Victoria, was, so that's the first clue, but then you get a second clue if you have enough information for a motive and no one's in the room and a bunch of other things. I think maybe the atmospheric Zeppelin noise. Okay, well, I think that maybe the fact that the Zeppelin noise isn't happening anymore when I'm in those rooms means that... or maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe it always goes out in these rooms, but I think it might be telling me that I have enough information for a motive. You see what I mean about... So, like, what the manual tells me I have to do about now is that I feel like I've got quite a bit of information. So now I want to find a motive clue, and that can happen. In fact, here, I'll show you. I'll click away, and I'll switch over to the manual. And I will go look at the manual, because there's specific... I've never gotten a motive clue. I'm not 100% sure how to do it. But it says that there's a number of things that have to be solved first. You'll find the motive clue only after you've found an ordinary clue in the room, only if no passengers are in the room, and only after you've gathered significant information from your interrogations. This, by the way, is the only time you'll find more than one clue in the same room. Most likely to be found in the room of the killer, the victim, or someone else closely involved in the plot. Okay, so I will try the 3 people I've found now. I remember there's a hint that says, well, it is possible to miss a motive clue because you don't have enough evidence or because there's someone in the room you're searching. If you find nothing the first time you search a room, don't bother searching it again. There are no clues there to be found. So I think maybe that tells me that there's no more clue in this room that I'm in already because I've searched for a clue and found nothing. It's a little bit ambiguously worded. I will switch back over and I'll keep searching until I get a you found nothing. But so no one's in the room, check. And I have found a clue here, check. But unfortunately there's nothing. I guess. So now let's see if I can get this room unoccupied, because I want to search Margaret's room. But I need nobody to be in it, and it seems like people really like to come and go in here. Like, look at this. I can't search for clues, you people. Please leave. Have I found a clue in here before? I'm not sure. So now this is the dilemma I keep hitting with this game, where I was decently confident in these 3. But it feels as though I'm not getting a clue from any of their 3 rooms. So then what is left? Let's try asking Margaret some things. I believe this is Margaret. Let's see if she has any more. I want to really plumb her depths. Last month from extended... Oh, she didn't have anything left. Did I go hard last time? So I'm still just trying to question Margaret. Let's try cool. Well, yeah, but Marlowe's dead. I can't ask Marlowe about Buck. Oh boy. Well, that guy didn't know very much. I'm in Vincent's room. I don't think he's involved. Maybe See, that's my question. I know there was that thing in the manual that said that you can only find the motive clue once you have enough information. And it also said that if you find nothing in the room, then it's all found. See, that doesn't tell me anything though, because I don't know. Yes, yeah, that doesn't match any of our people. So anyway, let me not focus on the case for a little bit, and I hope you'll apologize for my lack of rigor, but I wanted to show off just this scenery and talk a little bit about that. Like, I like the vibe of the Zinderneuf. I enjoy its checkered carpet. I enjoy its atmospheric dirigible noises that are constantly playing. to let you know you're in a dirigible. I enjoy, again, this jaunty walk, this little bouncy walk I have. And I enjoy the different rooms and just exploring around here. There's something to that, and I appreciate how much the game puts into that atmosphere and just little touches like it's really quite a small game. Once this case ends, that's pretty much the game. I can play again with different detectives. It'll generate a new murder, that kind of thing. But this is the game. And I enjoy that around that small kernel, it's added things like the flavor of the different detectives, the flavor of these different approaches that don't mean that much in the grand scheme of things as to how you progress. One approach, if it's effective, is as good as any other. This guy didn't know anything. But, you know what? Let's try... This won't work, but let's try accusing Buck Battle and just cutting to the chase. I was saying that the flavor doesn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things in terms of the gameplay, but I appreciate that it's there all the more because it does aid you in feeling a part of the things that are happening. If it didn't have those, it would be a slight game, and I like that they put the time into those things rather than feeling the need to add more levels or other accoutrement. So what are you doing in the victim's room? Who are you? Steffi Hartminst. Oh, back to the case, I suppose. Okay. Well, I don't care if she interacted with Philip. Philip didn't have much to... I apologize if I'm clicking through these too quickly. They aren't conveying too much information, I confess. Oh, I was going to accuse him. So I'm asking about Vincent. They were cooks together. He was a forger, but that's all he knows, and I don't trust him anyway. So I'm going to ask someone else a question so that I unlock Battle again. I don't actually care about the ideas. Now I can accuse Buck Battle, the husband, who seems like a fascist. So I'm accusing him. So he just says he's innocent. I don't have enough evidence, even if he were guilty. So I really need to find that. I really need to find that motive evidence, but I have no idea where that would be. And to be honest, I'm not immensely motivated to figure that out. By the way, check out this smooth scrolling on the moving down. Like, that's sort of impressive. I don't know how hard that is to do on the Atari 1200 XL, but I certainly know that, you know, that's something you have to consider in these days is what are the hardware capabilities for scrolling? Does it have anything built in? The fact that the map scrolls but the status bar doesn't, that would be something you would have to figure out how to do or have a feature implemented for it. And I don't know the details. I also, I will say that it is amusingly a tight window for scrolling up here. You can't really see if you're going to run into anybody when you move up. Same with the bottom, but to a less degree because it seems like they set it to the same distance at the top and the bottom, but didn't account for the sprite, the height of the sprite. I might be wrong about that looking at it. It's a little bit hard to tell, but it feels like this distance between my feet and the top of the window. You see what I mean? I ran into her, not intending to. The distance between my feet and the top of the window might be. It seemed like that might be a little bit more space than the distance between my feet and the top of the window down here, but you agree that there's a little bit more space down here. I wonder if that kind of thing is why. Like maybe my position is my feet with the sprite extending upwards, or rather the reverse, that my position is the top left probably, and so that's... Anyway, I'm overthinking it, but it's something like that would be my guess, but I'm talking out of my butt. I don't really know anything about how this is made, and I would really like to know, to be honest. I would really like to pick apart this code and just be able to tell, like, hey, how exactly does it generate these murders? How many are there? Um, this is a game for some reason I'm just itching to tear apart. Perhaps in part because, in truth, the game as it stands itself is not immensely interesting. Um, and so I would like to make an interesting game out of it by ripping it to shreds and finding the guts inside. And that's a little out of fair. Like I said, there's things that's a little not fair. There are things I think are interesting about the game. There are things that I think it does well. There are things that I think are really fun. I'm glad I know what it is. I hope you're glad you know what it is. But it's also a bit it's a bit dull. I'm not engaging. Once my paper theory sort of led me to a dead end, I do not feel compelled to wander around to each of these different berths and wander around in them until I get clues and figure out exactly what part each of all of these different people had in this perhaps sordid and complicated affair. I feel like I know who did it. I might prove to be wrong, but since I don't have a direct way of confirming that at the moment, I no longer feel motivated to explore. Oh, I don't think I've been down here before and seen these engines that are making so much noise. Isn't that lovely? I like that it's a dirigible and not just a ship. That's pleasant, and I like that atmosphere. I'm going to ignore histogram. So I think if you don't mind, I'm going to use the emulator capabilities of just speeding through the rest of this and making time go a bit quicker, ignoring anyone who happens to talk to me, and just running out the clock. Because I'm a little bit tired of playing Murder on the Zinderneuf, I have to confess. I wish that perhaps my intellectual curiosity were such that I were compelled to continue investigating and find the answer, but I feel like I have a good idea of what this game is. I do wish I could see successful play of it, but I'm not really going to spend a lot of time hunting it out. So here's the clock running down. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Let's see what happens. We have arrived in New York. I still think it's battle. So let's... Margaret Vandergilt. Okay, so it turns out... See, now, okay. Maybe if everybody had left her dang room, then I would have been able to find a motive clue in her room. You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything in my power that I could have done to shoo people from the room so I could hunt it for clues. And you would think that the murderer would want to stick in the room, so I'm not sure what I could have done there. Maybe if I'd just been more patient, if I'd done my waiting in there, I could have gotten a chance. I'm still sort of miffed that Buck, to be honest, I had a grudge against Buck from the whole being a Nazi thing. But it does sound like... and frankly, I'm pretty happy that I didn't solve this murder, because it kind of feels to me as though since Margaret Vandergilt was a British spy and everyone was all about how Veronica was so British, it seems like she must have been a double agent for somebody else, and the fact that her husband was implied to be a bit of a Nazi, that makes me think that maybe she was a double agent for Germany, which in the 1930s, I am super okay with there not being any more double agents of that nature. I choose to not prosecute. I knew it all along, and I have chosen to make the wrong confession, the wrong accusation, purely for the sake of national security and not standing for Nazis. Anyway, that's about how all of my games with Murder on the Zinderneuf have gone, to be honest. I get a little bit of a hint of people who might be involved. I find a little bit of evidence, but I don't figure out how to turn that into a smoking gun. I lose interest. I speed up the game, and then the game is like, aha! Here's what really happened, and that's it. That's Murder on the Zinderneuf. I had a decent time with it. I'm glad I took the time to show it off. I hope you enjoyed it too. If you, the hypothetical audience, exist. And if not, then I hope you, the non-existent audience, enjoyed it too, because I enjoyed explaining it to you. My thinking is that with this kind of game, to approach something like this, it involves a lot of, putting aside your expectations of fidelity, putting aside your expectations of how things work, and just approaching it as something new. And when I do that, I like to narrate that. And so here, I narrated it. And if you're interested, you can listen in. And if not, then it just makes me feel good to narrate to something. But enough about that. That's Murder on the Zinderneuf. I think, yep, it just kicks me back out to the menu. And so I think I will close this. And yeah, we're